The Wildlife Conservation Network saves endangered species and supports programs that help people and wildlife coexist and thrive. Jefe Parrish is the vice president, and he joins us today to talk about the future of wildlife under the new administration. Jefe.
Jefe.
Thanks for being here.
Great to see you guys again.
Good to see you too, again.
I like, man, I really love your name. I think I might change my name to Jefe. I just like where that sounds.
You know, man, I'm not the boss of much, so, but it's a good nickname. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sitting out here, I mean, we're talking about the new president. I'm sitting out here, it's 80 degrees in Colorado, so I don't know, man.
Okay, so what's happening? Is there going to be snow this season or what? Because I'm coming out there and I'm worried.
I'm sorry to tell you, my friend, there is not much right now. So.
It sounds like I need to come now, 80 degrees. That's what I need to do.
It's you know, it's global weirding, so it's things are getting unpredictable right now.
So speaking of global warming, was climate change as big of an issue as it should have been during the election this year?
It was not, you know, on either side, and I think it's you know, it's kind of sad. It's the only planet we've got, and so we really have not been paying enough attention to it. I think there's some fundamental differences between how the two sides are looking at things. You know, if there's, you know, look, we're going to judge the next president based on his actions, not his words.
Right.
So there's a lot of rhetoric, you know, and the rhetoric's pretty foreboding. I mean, you're going to back out of the Paris Treaty that was the global answer to try to keep us from warming too much. You know, we're talking about dismantling Obama's Clean Power Plan. Eviscerating the EPA. That's a lot of scary words. We'll see what happens. Again, we're waiting and we're in a wait and see mode, but it's the only planet we got, and everything, including the wildlife, depends on it.
I want to ask you this. I know in Obama's presidency there was talk about clean coal. I have so much trouble with that because you have coal and you have clean. It's like jumbo shrimp. Like what exactly is clean coal?
Yeah, well, good point, man. There is no clean coal. I mean, there is you know, there are ways to slightly reduce the impact of burning coal. But listen, fossil fuels are damaging to the environment. They're warming our planet, and they are damaging to our air. And they're ultimately threatening the survival of the human race in the long term. So, you know, there is no clean coal. And I think anybody who's building a platform based on that is not paying attention to the science.
Right.
Okay.
So, which animal environmental issues do you think are going to suffer the most, I guess, in the next 4+ years?
Yeah. Well, listen, I mean, in terms of animals, and, you know, I spend most of my waking hours paying attention to wildlife. There are the obvious ones, like polar bears and penguins. We spend a lot of time thinking about penguin conservation, for example. Right. But, you know, they're obvious. But there's a lot of impact that's going to happen to species that you wouldn't think about, including the Republican mascot. Elephants, for example, they're getting hit hard, not just by poaching, which is the biggest threat right now, you know, poaching for their tusk, for their ivory, but in the long term, and climate change, I mean, these elephants have to go further and further and further to find water because of drought and, again, unpredictable climates in Africa. So, look, I mean, even the unexpected impacts are more dramatic than we ever thought. So,
right. I also want to ask you about this. I mean, you know, this has been in the news a lot. Fracking, the whole fracking stuff. You know, you got people really feel strongly either way on that subject. Can you kind of tell us where you are and lightly break down fracking for anybody who doesn't know?
Yeah, so, you know, basically fracking, again, this is not the issue that we spend most of our time on it with the wildlife, although it has a big impact on wildlife, particularly here in the U.S. You know, it's basically it's injecting water. Simple form is it's injecting water to be able to break loose some of the fossil fuels, the natural gas, out of the rock. That's basically what it's doing. And it's got implications for water quality. It's got implications even above the surface for fragmenting the habitat. So there's some species like pronghorn antelope. You know, they're the second fastest land mammal on the planet. They're right here in my backyard. And they're amazing. They evolved in North America because we used to have a cheetah-like creature here in North America to chase them down. So that's why they're so fast. But they migrate, and when we have a lot of that oil and gas development coming in, it basically breaks up their habitat, and they can't move. And so it's like basically blocking the hallway from your bedroom to the kitchen in the morning. And
oh no! The kitchen?
coffee is not happening, man. Coffee's not happening.
If fracking is doing that, we need to stop fracking right now. They're blocking the kitchen. Let's stop fracking.
I tell you, so we're talking about this new administration, and I'm really concerned about about this. Obviously, we're paying a lot of attention to it, but I'm trying to keep some hope. I mean, maybe that's a good thing we can talk about.
Yeah, no, speaking of hope, like right now, Jefe, where should we be focusing like our energy to actually make some changes?
Totally. Well, look, first of all, I'm going to talk about wildlife for a second. Wildlife should be nonpartisan, right? I mean, and as well as the water and the air we breathe, right? I mean, Republicans and Democrats breathe the same air. So we should be making environmental issues nonpartisan and use the science. I think that we can find some common ground there. So that does give me hope. The other thing is, look, our country was based on checks and balances. And while the federal government maybe doesn't have as many checks and balances with full Republican control, the states are different than the federal government. And at state levels, we can still make good environmental decisions, even if perhaps the federal government doesn't. And we'll see.
Right.
The other thing is, look, the other check and balance is the private sector. The civil society can still take great action. And if you've ever supported a nonprofit, I would just suggest that whatever your issue is, you dive in deep now. Those nonprofits are going to hold the line. They're going to keep doing what the government can't do or won't do. And so, look, I mean, if you care about wildlife, we work with these amazing partners and send 100% of that money to the ground. So, double down on that investment through the Wildlife Conservation, right?
Yeah,
right.
Everyone should care about wildlife.
Yeah.
Everyone should.
Yeah.
And, in climate, I'd say, look, there are lots of great organizations working on climate. If that's your key issue, look at the Natural Resources Defense Council. They're doing some fantastic work. I would just say, if you thought about giving a little bit, give double that. Because now we're going to.
Exactly. That definitely makes sense, Jefe. I am with you, my man.
Thank you so much for joining us.
I'm going to steal your name, and next time you come back, you're going to be Freddie. All right, Jefe? I appreciate you, man.
Thanks, Jefe.
See you later.